As around 900 million Indian voters decide who should be their next leader, how vulnerable are they to the kind of social media manipulation that has recently been seen in Europe and the USA? Amid growing anxiety about the impact of fake news and malicious disinformation on the world's largest democracy, we've been to investigate.
As far as crime goes, not much happens in Mehboob-Nagar, a sleepy rural district in the heart of the South Indian state of Telangana. So when Police Constable Mohammed Ismail received an urgent phone call on a slow afternoon in May 2018, he didn't quite know what to make of it. The caller reported that a mob had taken 4 child kidnappers hostage and was threatening to kill them.
4 पर्सन्स को ऑटो के साथ रोका गया था। हम लोग जब यहाँ पे आए, मैं जब आया यहाँ पे, तो पब्लिक गैदरिंग बहुत ज़्यादा थी। 100 to 200 पीपल गैदर हुए थे।
The villagers told the constable that they had received messages forwarded over WhatsApp that a child kidnapping gang was heading for their village. The messages were accompanied by a video that showed 2 men on a motorcycle abducting a child who was playing on the street. It was enough to cause panic and mayhem.
ये उस लोगों ने ऑटो को जला दिया बाद में। हम लोग जज नहीं कर पाए कि ये सचमुच किडनैपर्स है या इनोसेंट पीपल है, जज नहीं कर पाए। तो हम लोगों ने उनको पब्लिक को समझाया, बताया कि ठीक है, ये होंगे अगर होंगे भी तो इसका फैसला और इसका फर्दर जो एक्शन है पुलिस लेगी। उस दिन जब उन लोगों ने पकड़ के रखा था ऑटो और 4 पर्सन्स को, पुलिस अगर टाइम पे नहीं पहुंचती तो हो सकता है कुछ ज़्यादा ही अनकंट्रोल हो जाता।
But while Constable Ismail was able to save the day here, things did get out of control in the rest of the country. Over a period of 4 months in 2018, more than 30 people were lynched across India after similar rumors about child abductions began circulating on WhatsApp. These killings were eventually dubbed the WhatsApp lynchings by the media. Amongst law enforcement officials, Mehboob-Nagar's Chief of Police Reema Rajeshwari, with her computer science degree, was one of the first to recognize what was happening.
I could understand that they were morphed. On the videos were deepfakes. They were not real videos. But these videos and images were making these villages form into mobs, stick-wielding mobs, and they were trying to restrain strangers who walk into the village. There was this fear, there was this mass hysteria. We wanted to understand the origin of these videos because they were going viral. But unfortunately, we could not get to the origin of these videos because of the traceability problem. Because WhatsApp has this end-to-end encryption and you cannot get to the origin. So even today, we have absolutely no idea about where these videos originated from.
Eventually, it emerged that the video in question was doctored from an educational video made by an NGO in Karachi, Pakistan, that tried to raise awareness about child kidnapping. With just a little editing, the video became a weapon in the hands of unknown troublemakers.
So we had to do something, and we had to do something very quick. When you have a faceless criminal, when you don't know who is creating this panic or who is spreading these malicious messages, then the only option you have is to reach out to the community and appeal them not to share them, not to make them go viral. So that's precisely what we did. People were not aware of the fake news, they were not aware of misinformation and the potential it had to incite violence.
But if the actions of Reema Rajeshwari and others have helped raise awareness about the potentially deadly consequences of spreading malicious disinformation, fewer people fully understand the broader threat that fake news poses to Indian democracy. In Patna, the capital of the North Indian state of Bihar, thousands of people have assembled to watch Prime Minister Modi launch his campaign for re-election in the state. The excitement is palpable.
पराक्रमी भारत के लिए भारत माता की.
Behind the scenes of this festival-like atmosphere, experts have been sounding the alarm bells. Since the last general election in 2014, India's political parties, including the Prime Minister's Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party or BJP, have emerged as masters of digital manipulation. Most of them, including the opposition Congress, now have a social media wing, but critics believe that the BJP's team, better known as the IT cell, is far more organized. So I reached out to them and all requests for interviews were quickly denied. But there are 3,000 IT cell volunteers spread out across this rally, and I hoped some of them would be willing to discuss their work.
देखिए सोशल मीडिया के थ्रू हम लोग व्हाट्सएप हुआ, फेसबुक, ट्विटर और इंस्टाग्राम के थ्रू हम लोग सब जगह अपने प्रचार करेंगे नरेंद्र मोदी जी के लिए 2019 को लेकर. इस बार इलेक्शन में हम लोग जितना भी कैंपेन होगा वो सोशल मीडिया पर हमेशा छाए रहेंगे.
Then, in a stroke of good luck, I ran into Manish Pandey. He heads the BJP's IT cell for the state of Bihar. They are often accused of dishing out misinformation in an attempt to sway voters, a charge that Pandey immediately brushed aside.
हमारा प्रोडक्ट जिसका नाम है मोदी, ये प्रोडक्ट हमारा ऐसा है कि फुटपाथ पे भी खड़ा होकर कोई बंदा बेच लेगा. ठीक है, इसकी विश्वसनीयता इतनी ज़बरदस्त है कि इसके लिए इसको कोई शोरूम खोलने की ज़रूरत है नहीं. तो मोदी अपने आप में एक बहुत बड़ा ब्रांड है, एक अपने आप में बहुत बड़ा प्रोडक्ट है, तो इसको फेक करने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है.
But he explained that he had personally overseen the setting up of thousands of WhatsApp groups, each with nearly 250 members.
50,000 के ऊपर जो है सो हमारा ग्रुप्स है जो व्हाट्सएप के रूप में है, जो व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप्स हम लोगों ने ऑफिशियली जो मेंटेन कर रखा है. ये फैक्ट्स जो है हो सकता है प्रिंट मीडिया लोगों तक ना पहुंचा पाए, या कुछ ऐसी मीडिया जो हमको लाइक नहीं करती वो लोगों तक वो फैक्ट्स नहीं पहुंचा पाए. तो ये हम सोशल मीडिया के माध्यम से अपने वॉलंटियर्स के माध्यम से हम उन तक पहुंचा पाते हैं लोगों तक.
Over 230 million people use WhatsApp in India. And many of them have been added to partisan groups that disseminate misinformation and provoke sectarian tensions. Nobody understands better how this works than 25-year-old Shivam Shankar Singh, a whistleblower who was a key member of the BJP's data analytics department until he suddenly quit a year ago.
The narrative of the party during the 2014 elections was centered around development and अच्छे दिन आने वाले, good days are about to come. Messaging like that slowly died out in the party, and if you look at messaging today, it's about how we are going to save the Hindu population of the country, how we are fighting against Pakistan, how there are anti-nationals and urban Naxals and communists trying to take over the country, and how we are going to save you from all of this. All of these are constructed enemies that the party has created to basically alliance with the voters and manipulate them into voting for the party just based on emotions. That is what the party is banking upon now, and that is why I ended up resigning.
Critics like Shivam allege that the BJP's shifting narrative is contributing to the flood of misinformation in India.
अंदर हम लोग बिहार वाला डिस्कस कर लेते हैं पूरा.
He now consults with a group of opposition politicians in the state of Bihar, helping them devise a digital strategy to counter the BJP, which is miles ahead in the game.
अब हम लोग को मल्टीपल सॉन्ग्स निकाल देना होगा. जितना भी इश्यूज पे निकल जाए, फार्मर्स पे निकल जाए, यूथ पे निकल जाए, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट पे स्पेसिफिक सॉन्ग निकल जाए, ये जितना वायरल करवा सके उतना बेनिफिशियल रहेगा.
Shivam alleges that when he was with the BJP, he was tasked with collecting a large amount of personal data to profile voters. These data sets were then used to add people to different WhatsApp group chats based on their interests or their prejudices.
So a lot of data is in the public domain that's provided by the Election Commission itself. The biggest one is the voter roll. What the voter roll has is the person's name, age, the area that they live in, their gender, their household information, and their voter number. In a large part of India, you can get people's castes and religions just with their name. Because if it's a Muslim name, you know that person's probably a Muslim. So with just that, you can get to a 65-70% accuracy. With this, you can also map other data sets, including, say, electricity bills, which give you a great idea of socioeconomic status. Because whoever's richer usually has a higher electricity bill because they have air conditioning. Plus, you have things like phone numbers that are available surprisingly easily in India. If you can map that to the electoral roll, then you basically have a direct way to message people based on their caste, their religion, their age group, and the booth they belong to.
The lack of data protection laws in India means that such methods are not strictly illegal. But Shivam was disturbed by the kind of unethical micro-targeting he witnessed.
The problem arises when you start using the exact same available data to basically create divide in society and to polarize people. What started happening is that there is a very concerted effort to create a divide between Hindus and Muslims, to create a divide between specific caste groups. BJP has very specific kind of messaging that it wants to get across. It wants to get across the messaging that Muslims will overtake the Hindu population. None of it is true. But the thing is, just because the messaging goes to such a small subset of people that you already know are primed to believe that messaging. So the thing is, if you can profile people and identify what kind of messaging they're likely to believe, you can skew their perception of reality in a specific way with a specific kind of messaging campaign. It doesn't happen instantly. It's not one piece of fake news that's going to convince you of something. But if you're bombarded with fake news pointed to a specific direction for months on end, it does start to influence you.
These messages target minority religious groups or individual politicians, journalists, and activists. But the problem of fake news is not limited to WhatsApp. Its parent company, Facebook, has nearly 300 million users in India and thus by default plays host to an organized ecosystem for disseminating misinformation. In 2018, a BBC analysis of some 3,000 Facebook pages from India found a predominant right-wing narrative, a nationalist ideology aligned with the BJP, on sites spreading fake news. At the heart of this organized ecosystem are partisan influencers like Vikas Pandey.
I started with Facebook, in which main known as I Support Narendra Modi page, which is 1.6, which is world's biggest fan page. And I've got more pages which I don't want to name because they will again be targeted, but it's more than 6 crore likes.
With Facebook now cracking down on pages that share misleading information, Vikas is careful not to reveal too much. But with his vast reach, he can often ensure that certain posts go viral. While some experts insist he's part of the BJP's IT cell, he denies it.
I don't have any such formal role in the party, but people know me since I have been involved since last 15 years or so in the same setup. So it's like ad hoc. If we have to run a hashtag, I get a broadcast from others or a call from somebody in the party or the system, boss, this is how we need to do, and then I circulate further.
To achieve this, he has an army of volunteers at his disposal.
Mostly they are all students. So I normally see them for 6 months or so, see how sensible they are and how much they are willing to help to the cause. If they are willing to help, they are willing to learn also like Photoshop or something to make graphics out of. So I give them either from my pocket 1,000 or 2,000 rupees, like something for the internet. I ask some of my corporate friend to help them, like give them a job.
While Vikas does not create any content himself, he has been accused of sharing misleading information.
Anything who raises right-wing voice is attacked by left-wing lobby furiously. They want to demonizing, call him a fake news peddler, call him names, call him, just try to change narrative, make sure his credibility is lost.
In a now deleted post, which we were able to pull up with the help of a web tool called Wayback Machine, Vikas shared a claim that the number of Rohingya refugees living in India had risen to 110 million people. In fact, the official figure is close to 40,000. But because the Rohingyas are a refugee group that are largely Muslim, this fed into the pre-existing bias in Indian society against Muslims. So therefore, this post was shared over 21,000 times before it was officially taken off. For Facebook, proving its credibility in its largest market is crucial. 2 weeks before the election began, Facebook banned hundreds of pages linked to the IT cells of the Congress and the BJP. But the volume of misinformation on social media networks is so high that technology companies just cannot keep up. This explosion has led to the birth of over half a dozen fact-checking networks like Alt News, co-founded by Pratik Sinha. For 2 years now, Sinha and his small team have consistently debunked fake news in a non-partisan way, earning them more than a few enemies along the way.
We got the cheapest possible place to make an office because we have a shoestring budget. So these security cameras that you see, it is to tell people that if anything funny is tried, they are being recorded. So it is for our own safety.
It's a few days after Indian Air Force planes hit a target inside Pakistani territory, and Pratik's team is neck deep in verifying false claims circulating on social media about the attack.
हाय, मैं पूजा ऑल्ट न्यूज़ से। द इंडियन एयरफोर्स ने 26 फरवरी को बालाकोट में एयर स्ट्राइक किया। इसके बाद सोशल मीडिया पे एक नैरेटिव बनाने की कोशिश की जा रही थी कि कैसे एयर स्ट्राइक्स की वजह से पाकिस्तान में बहुत डेविस्टेशन कॉज हुआ। आफ्टर द एयर स्ट्राइक देयर वर आल्सो वीडियोस बीइंग सर्कुलेटेड। वी फाउंड वीडियोस ऑफ फुटेज फ्रॉम वीडियो गेम्स, कॉल ऑफ ड्यूटी एंड स्टफ लाइक दैट being circulated and saying that this is the Indian army attacking.
For Alt News, following the money has become increasingly important. One way of doing this is to track how much individual pages are spending on Facebook ads.
From Feb to now, they put how many crores? Bharat Ke Man Ki Baat, 1.2 crores. Then in 1 week, they have put out 50 lakhs. They're essentially accelerating the amount. As the elections approach, one more thing that we need to do is that we need to go to some of the smaller pages which are not, which they think they are not being sort of monitored, and we want to see if there's any ad that Facebook has approved which has an element of misinformation.
Alt News recently established that 70% of the money spent on political ads in a particular week had come from pro-BJP pages. Nonetheless, it's clear that not everyone is ideologically motivated.
The ones that are running the website and making money, the financial motivation is greater in my belief. For example, there was this guy, his name is Abhishek Mishra, and he used to create pro-Modi videos, and he saw that the pie is too full here, so he jumped to the other side and started doing anti-BJP campaign. If there were different political circumstances in the country, and if they had to create different kind of content to make the same amount of money, they would.
Abhishek Mishra is amongst a handful of known fake news creators in India. His wildly popular website, Viral in India, often carries blatantly false stories with a decidedly anti-BJP stance. The website was recently suspended, but as this film was being made, its associated page was still active on Facebook and had over 1 million followers. He agreed to meet us in New Delhi and was confrontational from the start.
आप कितने लोगों को एम्प्लॉय करते हैं?
इस बारे में मैं जानकारी नहीं दे सकता।
क्यों?
मेरे हिसाब से ये जानकारी पब्लिक में ऐसी कोई किसी की ज़रूरत की नहीं है। अगर हमारी वेबसाइट पर आज करोड़ों लोग पढ़ रहे हैं तो हमारे पास एडवर्टाइजर्स होते हैं और वो उनका जो एक स्मॉल वहाँ से रेवेन्यू आता है और वही रेवेन्यू हमारे इस बिजनेस मॉडल को रन करने के लिए होता है। इससे ज़्यादा हमारा कोई बिजनेस मॉडल नहीं है।
He proudly posts pictures on social media with several leaders from the opposition Congress, including with the party's president Rahul Gandhi, but denies any formal association. Then, I bring up allegations that he deliberately creates fake content.
आप मेरे ऊपर जैसे किसी छोटी वेबसाइट ने आरोप लगाया कि इसने ये फेक न्यूज़ फैलाई, मैं बोलूँ आप मुझे कोई भी एग्जांपल दीजिए फेक न्यूज़ का जो आप कह रहे थे।
So, I do. In May 2018, one of his posts went viral on Facebook. It claimed that former Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, who belongs to the Congress party, had been declared the first of 50 most honest leaders in the world in an American survey.
हमने उसमें किसी भी सर्वे एजेंसी का नाम नहीं लिया। एक सर्वे जो अमेरिका में किया गया। अब वो सर्वे मैं अमेरिका गया, मैंने 40 लोगों के बीच में सर्वे किया, मैंने इंडिया में आके अपनी वेबसाइट पर कोई चीज़ चलाई, मैं किसी पर आरोप नहीं लगा रहा, मैं कोई झूठ नहीं फैला रहा, तो इसमें क्या गलत है भाई? सर्वे मैंने किया, मैंने आके अपनी वेबसाइट पे चलाया, करोड़ों लोगों ने उसको शेयर किया।
पर शायद आपने वो रिवील नहीं किया अपने आर्टिकल में।
क्या जरूरत है? क्या जरूरत है रिवील करने की? आप भी तो अपने सोर्सेज हर वक्त रिवील थोड़ी करते हैं। अमेरिका में मैंने किया था सर्वे और मैंने चलाया पर्सनल लेवल पर। मैं कभी भी गया, वो मेरा पर्सनल लेवल पर है, हमने चलाया वो।
Like Abhishek, peddlers of misinformation continue to operate with impunity in India. The easy availability of data sets with personal information ensures that their content is targeted at audiences who are already primed to believe it. Today, over 600 million Indians are connected to the internet. As politicians target this rapidly growing constituency, the country's laws have not kept pace. Successive governments have failed to bring in a personal data protection law. The latest draft of this law will now only be discussed in Parliament after the ongoing polls. Thousands of kilometers from New Delhi, in the French city of Toulouse, security analyst Baptiste Roberts has given Indians yet another reason to demand more stringent data protection laws. Better known through his Twitter pseudonym Elliot Alderson, he describes himself as the worst nightmare of the BJP's IT cell.
Ce qu'a fait Narendra Modi est très très intelligent puisqu'il a réellement utilisé les outils à sa disposition pour toucher les gens au plus près afin de les profiler et de les toucher réellement au cœur de leurs préoccupations.
A year ago, Baptiste revealed that the Prime Minister's Namo app was sending users' personal data without their consent to an American behavioral analytics company called CleverTap. This included specifics such as age, profession, and other voter ID details.
Quand on regarde les services que propose CleverTap, la documentation est très très claire. CleverTap aujourd'hui propose à ses clients, donc dans le cas précis les développeurs de l'application Namo, de pouvoir segmenter ses utilisateurs et on va pouvoir les cibler avec des campagnes très spécifiques. Et par exemple, lorsqu'on va envoyer une nouvelle, on va être capable de profiler, de modifier la nouvelle de manière à ce qu'elle convienne mieux à tel type d'utilisateur.
Shortly after Baptiste's revelations, the BJP confirmed directly to him that CleverTap was using the data from the Namo app for analytics.
What does CleverTap offer that
The company remains elusive about the nature of this analysis. All our emails and calls to them went unanswered. But their website provides a few clues.
CleverTap's overall approach is to make relationship marketing dead simple and easy for marketers. For example, there are 3 parts in a campaign: the who should receive the message, the when, what time, what device that the message should go to, and what the actual message is. We are automating all 3 of these.
For Baptiste, such behavioral analysis raises a few important questions.
CleverTap est aujourd'hui assis sur 10 millions, plus de 10 millions de données personnelles d'utilisateurs indiens. Qu'est-ce qu'ils en font? On ne sait pas. Utiliser une solution d'analytics, ce n'est pas quelque chose de très étonnant pour des développeurs d'applications. Par contre, utiliser une solution d'analytics dans le cadre politique pour une application qui est aussi grande, on peut se poser des questions après des scandales tels que Cambridge Analytica. Le profilage de personnes à travers les réseaux sociaux, les applications, n'est pas forcément quelque chose de très bien vu. C'est quelque chose qui n'est pas du tout neutre aujourd'hui et qui a eu un rôle prépondérant dans les dernières élections et qui aura un rôle prépondérant dans les élections à venir. Le rôle des réseaux sociaux est très très important dans la prise de décision du vote.
It's nearly impossible to quantify the damage that such social media manipulation may inflict on India's democratic process. But if we are to protect and preserve our constitutional right to freely elect our leaders, without fear or favor, then my fellow citizens will have to demand accountability from those who lead us and from those who mislead us.